The ninth mainline installment in the legendary survival horror series is on its way, bringing us a fresh nightmare. Resident Evil Requiem picks up right where Resident Evil Village left off, diving deeper into its story. You step into the shoes of FBI agent Grace Ashcroft, who finds herself knee-deep in horror as she investigates a string of bizarre deaths in a remote hotel in the Midwest. The game showcases the RE engine, delivering beautiful visuals and lighting that really set the creepy atmosphere. One of the cool new features is the ability to switch between first-person and third-person perspectives on the fly. This lets you decide how you want to tackle the game, whether you want the tension of first-person exploration or the strategic gameplay of third-person for facing off against monsters. Requiem looks set to blend a classic Resident Evil story with a brand new protagonist in a frightful setting, aiming to merge the intense action of the newer games with the resource-scarce tension of the older ones. It's set to drop on February 27th, 2026. The big challenge is making sure the plot stays cohesive. It has to introduce a new threat that ties into the long-running lore of the series without getting too complicated. If you're ready for the next chapter in survival horror, get ready for the chills that Requiem will bring early next year. Return to Isla Nublar right after the disaster, but this time, you're not in charge. You're the prey. Jurassic Park Survival is the stealth-focused action-adventure game that fans have always wanted. You're stepping into the shoes of Dr. Maya Joshi, an InGen scientist who got stuck on the island because of a severe tropical storm, missing the evacuation window before rescue teams arrived. The gameplay is all about stealth, evasion, and solving environmental puzzles. Unlike past Jurassic Park games, this one makes you feel completely vulnerable against the massive, smart predators. You'll deal mostly with velociraptors and the T-Rex, both powered by advanced AI. You'll need to use your surroundings, sneaking through ducts, tossing objects to make noise, and manipulating electricity and water to distract the dinosaurs, just to stay alive. Saber Interactive is teaming up with Universal to recreate the iconic 1993 park, bringing back familiar locations and even some that were just hinted at in the original movie. This game promises to deliver the ultimate dinosaur horror experience, combining the tension of games like Alien Isolation with elements from Michael Crichton's story. It's set to release in 2026. The challenge will be managing the difficulty. The stealth mechanics need to stay fresh and engaging throughout the game without feeling repetitive. If you're ready to confront the terrifying reality of Isla Nublar, this is the survival game you've been waiting for. The Nightmares of H.P. Lovecraft are back. The Sinking City 2 is the sequel from Frogwares that changes things up. It drops the heavy detective work of the first game and focuses instead on survival horror. Set in the flooded city of Arkham, Massachusetts, in the creepy 1920s, players will need to pay attention to their survival instincts. Being developed on Unreal Engine 5, the game promises a deep, atmospheric world and intense enemy encounters. You'll be exploring Arkham on foot and by boat, hunting for limited resources, especially vintage 1920s weapons and precious ammo. Expect to face off against some grotesque eldritch monsters straight out of the Cthulhu mythos. This marks a huge shift for Frogwares, who are known for its narrative-driven games. They want to combine their storytelling skills with a combat-heavy survival experience while keeping the rich Lovecraftian lore fans love. With a planned release in 2026, the big challenge will be nailing that survival horror combat and proving they can deliver something gripping. For fans who want a pure, terrifying cosmic horror experience, this sequel is definitely worth keeping an eye on. Blight Survival is a co-op medieval action horror roguelite, where your armor is basically your lifeline. Set in the brutal 14th century, this game drops you in the middle of a messed up no man's land between two constantly fighting kingdoms. This area is plagued by a nasty new version of the Black Death that brings the dead back as monsters. Gameplay is all about high stakes and teamwork. You and up to 3 friends will need to leave your safe hideout to complete missions like snagging relics or taking down bosses, all while trying to escape with valuable loot and limited healing supplies. The combat is intense and demands skill. Think precise swordplay and careful parrying, similar to For Honor, but with a creepy twist. You build your strength by successfully extracting gear that helps you upgrade your armor, craft better weapons, and boost your skills to take on even tougher challenges. With behavior interactive on board, the folks behind Dead by Daylight, you can expect a fantastic horror atmosphere and unique enemies that each bring their own scares. The game is set to launch sometime between 2026 and 2027, but there's a bit of a concern about keeping things fresh. Like most extraction roguelites, it needs enough variety and depth in gear to keep players hooked through tons of tough runs. If you're after a medieval fantasy vibe that's more about Dark Souls horror than epic fantasy adventures, you'll want to team up for the Blight. Supermassive Games is diving into its familiar interactive horror style with a new twist in deep space. Directive 8020 is the latest creepy installment in the Dark Pictures anthology. This game is a mix of cinematic drama and survival horror, where every choice you make impacts who lives, who dies, and how the story wraps up. You're on the Cassiopeia, a spaceship exploring a new planet, Tau Ceti F. The vibe is heavily inspired by sci-fi horror classics like Alien and The Thing. The crew wakes up to a bunch of terrifying situations, hull breaches, a creepy life form lurking around, and a growing mistrust among the team as they start to suspect that one of them might not be who they say they are. You'll get to play as 5 different characters and switch between them to feel that building fear and tension up close. Supermassive is throwing in some new features, like stealth mechanics and tool-based puzzles, making you use things like scanners and improvised distractions to deal with the chaos. This game is meant to be the big finish for this cycle of the anthology, promising a more complex and expansive story than ever. Initially set for 2025, it's now got a 2026 release date. With all the interconnected stories leading up to this point, they really needed to nail the climax and wrap up the overarching mystery in a way that feels satisfying. If you're looking for a horror experience where your choices truly matter and the scares come from your own crew, get ready to lose yourself in the void. Dark Fracture is a creepy indie horror game that mixes everyday life with cosmic dread. Set in the late 90s rural USA, you step into the shoes of Edward, a guy working at a remote body farm. He's dealing with some serious mental issues from his past, and his job isn't exactly a walk in the park either. What makes the game stand out is its cool mechanic of shifting realities. As Edward's mind unravels due to his traumatic experiences and the eerie vibe of his workplace, the environment flips between his grim reality and a chilling, otherworldly dimension that feels ripped from a Lovecraft story. This shift isn't just for show, it's crucial for solving puzzles and avoiding freaky encounters, since you can't really fight the horrors in this alternate realm. The game leans into building a tense atmosphere rather than relying on cheap jump scares, using immersive lighting and sound design to keep you on edge. Dark Fracture is a big project from an indie team, following the success of its demo, The Prologue. It's aiming to deliver a tight, single-player story that digs into mental health, trauma, and the cold, uncaring universe. Scheduled for a full release in 2026, is a challenge to keep the illusion fresh across the whole game without falling into predictability. If you're into deeply unsettling journeys and indie horror focused on atmosphere, this game promises a wild ride into madness. So, which of these terrifying worlds are you most afraid to jump into? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the best games coming soon. This is the Paladin signing off, and I will see you next time.